literally just making sure that all of these channels are completely live and stuff, right? So if you can, I'd love if you could let me know if you can, hear me clearly and all these things. I'm hoping that your Sunday has been awesome and everything. I'm hoping that, yeah, you're good. Right? All right. So, doing my best to get all of these comments in the same place, and then we're good to go. Yeah. All right. So, YouTube comments, Instagram comments, and then, all right. Cool. So with that said, guys, yeah, so welcome to the Digital Dominator Loft, right? I am Charmian-Marie Beadle, just in case you do not know. And, tonight we're going to be talking about the things that you need to figure out for your online business, I find that there's so many of us who, start online businesses and we pretty much try to, just do pretty much, which is great. It speaks to ambition. It speaks to just you deciding that you're not going to procrastinate and all of that. So if that's been you, cool, right? But at the same time, a lot of persons eventually find that they are unable to move past a specific barrier. And if the volume is low for everybody, let me know. I just got a comment that everything is low. Oh Lord. Let me know if y'all can hear me clearly, please. Would love to see a comment or two. I don't want y'all to miss this amazingness. Right? Alright, so I've seen these comments here, not seeing. Alright, so I've gotten everything in the same location, so that's great. Alrighty. Can everybody hear me a little better now? Let me move the mic closer. Can you hear me a little better now? Just give me a comment. All right. Let me also turn down my phone. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and continue. Right. So saying that to say, right. So that said, there are a lot of persons who start their business and stuff like that, but they can't push past a certain glass ceiling because they don't have specific or fundamental things figured out in their business, right? And interestingly, when I provide you with this list of things that you need to have figured out for your business, you're gonna be like, yo, what? Those seem extremely simple, but it's when you lay a solid foundation with these 4 things that you are able to really keep yourself grounded and track back all the time, or as often as possible, right? So making sure that you know that. So saying that to say, oh, by the way, so let me just do a quick review of what we did last week. And I mean, of course, you're gonna watch this video or last week's video after this one, hopefully. But yeah, so review of last week. So we spoke about a digitized business versus an online business. A digitized business is literally a brick and mortar business, like in present day, who is literally trying to get their presence known online. So they're building a digital presence online versus an online business that has primarily all, pretty much all aspects of the business, whether marketing or operations or anything like that, fully online, right? So let's just make sure that, we remember that and stuff. So in terms of figuring these things out for your online business, right, with you having pretty much all of your operations online, here are 4 things you need to figure out. This spells 8. Oh, did I just say spells 8? 4 things that you need to figure out for your online business, right? So the first thing, and I'll just list them quickly. So the first thing is what you're selling. Second thing is who you're selling to. Third thing is where you're selling. And then the 4th thing is why you're selling, right? So with that said, no, let's start with, what you're selling, right? Now, It's easy to just speak about, what you're selling. It's easy to speak about, all right, fine. Like, I have some lip gloss I want to sell, or hi, I mean, I can be a virtual assistant, fine. But it's so important for us to recognize that there's a difference between like a core. Okay, great. Thanks, thanks for that comment. So little clear and a little louder. All right, perfect. So right. So first things first, there are core services that we offer, right? And I was actually explaining this to a client recently. So your core service is actually different from your offer, right? Your core service is actually the base thing that you provide. So like in business class where they say, hey, what is it that you are gonna be putting out there that will solve a problem, right? Or what will you be doing, or what product are you providing that is going to solve a problem, right? And the fact is that that ends up being your core service. If it is that you, hold on, seeing a weird notification here. Sorry about that. Okay, cool. Right. So with that said, I'm sorry, I just saw this weird notification that just kind of freaked me out. Anyway, so your core service, right? So if it's solving a problem and everything, that means that it forms the basis of your overall offers, right? Remember that your core service, for instance, like might be life coaching, might be business coaching, might be something of the sort. You get what I'm saying? And so with it being that the main thing that you offer, you understand that, all right, cool, no matter what, no matter what offer you create, this is going to be at the core of it, right? And then no, so it's you understanding that this is what you do to solve specific issues that you know that your audience has, right? And we'll get into audience a little later, right? And so with that said, no, once you have that packed, once you have that figured out and everything, you then move on to say, all right, cool. Do I want to promote myself as just having this core service? Like, do you want to stick with just saying, all right, cool, let's just have coaching sessions. Let's book a single 90-minute coaching session with me. Or you get what I'm saying? Like, just keeping it simple, keeping it to the point, all of these things. Or do you want to provide an offer? An offer, no, think of a package, right? Think of you putting multiple things together to allow your audience or your clients to reach a specific goal, right? So meaning, so it could be like you putting together like coaching sessions, a goal tracker, courses, things like that, and everything together. Once everything is working in tandem, it helps persons to get to the destination that you promise to get them to, right? So when that works, on a whole, it means that you are delivering on the specific promise that they would have signed up for when they decided that, hey, I want this offer, right? So it's really important for you to figure out, again, if you want to keep it simple by just keeping it like at the core service that you provide. Remember, that's, just the main thing that solves a problem, right? And it's just very direct and stuff. Or if you want to go a step further and create an offer, create a package that every single element works in tandem to get persons to a specific destination, right? So with that said, and I mean, just to say, because I mean, I mainly work with service-based businesses, so that's why my talking is generally biased. But if you are a product-based business and stuff, the same kind of goes for you. Where I mean, in a very practical sense, this is not the only example, but in a very practical sense, if it is that you're selling lip gloss, that's just one product, so you can keep that business very simple, saying, hey, I only want to focus on selling lip glosses, right? Or, maybe you can create bundle deals or be more like a one-stop shop for beauty supplies. You get what I'm saying? So that means that, you give more, meat for people to chew on when they're thinking about, improving on their overall, their overall beauty or enhancement of their looks, if you get what I'm saying. So it of course, for product-based businesses versus service-based businesses, it's important to note that difference, but at the same time, the base principle is pretty similar, right? So again, just to say, the first thing you need to figure out is what you're selling, right? So we're moving on to number 2. Who are you selling to, right? No, a lot of persons are gonna tell you, hey, you need to niche down. Like I feel like that's one of the most popular bits of advice that people give here online. You know, that oh, you need to find your niche. You need to got it, precious, right? And honestly, I feel like it's important to recognize that sometimes you might feel intimidated in doing that. The reason you might feel intimidated or feel kind of boxed in terms of doing that is because sometimes we have the idea that hey, we don't just want to serve one group of people. We don't just want to serve just like males slash females, or you get what I'm saying, like you want to open yourself up to as many people as possible. However, there is a really important principle that we must always recognize. If you're speaking to everybody, you're speaking to nobody, and that's just the reality. And when you go back to thinking about what you're selling, you know, for the fact that you would have come up with the core service to say, hey, I'm solving a specific problem with this. If you are solving a specific problem, it means that not everybody has that same problem. So already there is already a line of demarcation being drawn. You get what I'm saying? So the idea about niching and the idea of all of this is literally for you to figure out how best you can get the messaging through. Hey, I'm sounding low. I'm still sounding low. I'm so sorry about that. Thank you for that, Annette. All right, let me see how I can turn things up. Guys, hold on. All right, so let me know if you can still hear, or if you can hear me a little better, because maybe it was that the fan was competing with the mic and stuff. So Annette, you can let me know, or you're over here on Facebook. I'm so happy you're here, by the way. So let me know if you're hearing me a little louder, and Bran, let me know as well. And Bran, let me know on Instagram if you can hear me a little better as well. Dun, dun, dun. Doing a little pause. Oh yeah, and then the responses are a little delayed, so I know that might be a tad. Yeah. I just want to make sure it's a little louder. Okay. Alrighty. I don't know what's going on. Hold on. Alright, well, I just turned up the volume to the max on all of my devices. So, hold on. Yoko. Alright, hold on. Let me just do one more thing. Adding one more thing. Okay. It's at the same level. So I did one more thing a while ago. So yeah, I'm turning it all up. Yeah. Thank you for coping though, Annette. Right. Let me know. I just did one more thing. So I kind of just removed the mic and added it back. So let me know if you're hearing a little better, because I'm maxed out over here. But yeah. So while you do that, because I mean, of course, I do need to talk for you to be able to tell me if you're hearing better. So I will continue, and then you just let me know what's up. All right. Great. I'm seeing that it's good on Instagram. So let me know, Annette, if it's cool on Facebook. All right. I'm gone. No, what? Hold on. Hold on. Oh, okay. All right. Cool. Hmm. That is crazy for Facebook. Okay, you're seeing me. Great. And you're hearing me now in it? 'Cause I want to make sure that that you're hearing and stuff and everything cool. Alrighty. So I'll continue and then we'll see what I'm going, yeah? Hey. Alright, fabulous. Thank you. It was hey Linda, hey. All right, cool, fabulous. So great. So I'm happy that we're back on track. So in terms of just target audience and stuff, let's jump into that now, right? So I spoke about earlier the fact that hey, if you're already solving a problem, there's already a line of demarcation, right? Thanks, Linda. There's already, the fact that, hey, you are solving a specific problem that not the entire 7 billion plus people in the world, have, right? And so with that said, fine. So let us actually zero in some more because at the end of the day, again, if you're talking to everybody, you're talking to nobody. So you want to be speaking to people, right? You want to be speaking to persons who are going to potentially invest in your business, right? So with that said, you establish a target audience for your business. And that's just you generally writing down, hey, all right, cool. This is the audience that I want to focus on, right? So cool, right? So with that said, cool, Annette. All right, you're hearing? Big up yourself. All right, cool. So with that said, no. So for instance, let's use an example. Maybe a general target audience could be mothers with children, right? And so fine, as much as it seems broad, at the end of the day, one, you're already narrowing down, you're not including men. Fine, not no discrimination, but, just saying. Then the next thing, no, there are a lot of women who don't have children, whether we're saying girls, teenagers, young adults, all of that. There are a lot that do not have children. So that's a thing, right? So you've already narrowed down in two specific ways, right? So generally, your messaging then is going to be connecting with women who have children, right? So fine, because remember your core product or your core service would be solving a specific problem then that women with children have, right? So then no, but we say, all right, cool. So all right, fine, we did narrow down, beautiful. But then suppose that actually adds up to about like 3 million women in the world. Like, cool, right? That's still a lot of persons to speak to. That's still a lot of persons to reach, Are those 3 million individuals, are those 3 million women with children really going to potentially invest in your business? Because the other tricky thing now is that, hey, a lot of these women with children are at different stages, right? There's some of the children who are currently adults, so they don't need to be taking care of them necessarily. There's some of them who are young adults who are potentially just leaving university or, about to exit. There's some who are teenagers. There's some who have toddlers. You get what I'm saying? So there's so many more ways to actually narrow that down. And so that process of narrowing down generally is called niching, right? So just in case you never knew that, that is called niching. We are trying to make sure that we're getting even more specific so that we can more match up our core service, or our core product with the persons who are more likely to buy from our business. So that, once they see your messaging, once they see your content online, once they see what you have to offer, there's almost a direct thing like, hey, I need to probably, invest in this, right? So say for instance then, we are going to be niching down to women with toddlers, right? We can actually go into the idea of micro niching, right? Where there are women with toddlers, but then we can say, all right, cool, let's focus on women with under two, right? Because that's a whole other niche. You get what I'm saying? And a very specific niche, right? So I'm just trying to paint the picture to show you just how much more granular you can get, because of course even with 202 could be 202 that are males. You get what I'm saying? So saying that to say you can choose exactly how specific you get and so even though there is a danger of getting too specific, but at the end of the day, once you decide to zero in on who you're speaking to, that's when you have the best type of messaging properly mapped out for your business here online, right? So I'm just letting you know, right? I want to still drop in here though that there's another way of niching, right? Because again, remember that there's some persons who do not necessarily want to niche according to demographics, right? So I'll say still, you can niche according to the transformation that your offer provides, right? Or your product, right? So with that said, or product bundle, right? So with that said, no, it's slightly similar in the sense of, all right, cool. You might have a number of products or a number of offers that you have developed. And I mean, for a lot of people would say, okay, cool, that's too much, like, how are you gonna sell all of those persons, How are you gonna, put yourself out there properly? Like, say you have 8 offers, that's a lot, right? But at the same time, if you are multi-passionate, if you have different transformations that you provide to different types of individuals from different niches, then cool, right? So you group the different individuals then according to the transformation that they want. So does somebody want to get more visibility online? Then cool, you group them according to that. So it could be male, female, from Jamaica, US, wherever else, because we're grouping them according to the transformation, right? And that's it. So I find that, and I personally did both of those methods of niching, right? And I found that in both seasons of my business, I really was able to reach those persons and see the difference in terms of just, yeah, how they gravitated towards the offers versus when I was trying to just fling it wide, if you get what I'm saying. So definitely take that tip. You don't want to miss out on that. And I'm sure you'll definitely see the difference where that is concerned, right? So we have already spoken about what you're selling. And remember, we spoke about, your core service versus your offer and versus, like products and product bundles and all of that, right? Then we spoke about just now who you're selling to. We spoke about target audiences and then also niching. And I spoke to you about 2 methods of niching, right? So we're going to move on to where you're selling, right? And remember, we're trying to figure out the main things we need to figure out for online business. So where are you selling? Right? Now, maybe that sounds a bit, weird, like, all right, cool, why am I focusing on where I'm selling and stuff? Yeah, so digital is where, literally the platform, the playground, the everything, the container that our online businesses, literally play in. And so with that said, now you have specific platforms that allow for, the communication that you need to, put forward on behalf of your business. So more often than not, this is social media platforms as well as other marketing platforms, with various types of content that you provide, right? So with that said, I strongly encourage you to identify your primary communication channels, right? Now, in identifying your primary communication channels, you already recognize that, hey, if you're on multiple channels and stuff, that's great, right? But at the same time, if you are on multiple channels, it will become a nightmare to manage all of those channels, right? And I'm telling you straight up, like, I waited almost 2 years before I got on more than 3 platforms because I'm like, yo, I'm not spreading myself thin. You get me? And right now I have a team, and like I'm even in the midst of that, I still get, I still have moments where, I can get overwhelmed if I'm not keeping on track with, like my schedule, my weekly schedule and stuff like that. So saying that to say, like, first off the bat, don't force yourself to get on too many channels too early because you're going to have to maintain that. And not only just maintain that, make sure your brand is like properly maintained or showcased on all of these different channels, right? So saying that to say, identify your primary communication channels. I normally recommend 3 to get started with. Some people recommend 1, and most likely or more often than not, Instagram tends to win, right? Because of just the dynamism of Instagram, even though it's the queen of changes, right? But at the end of the day, Instagram is so unique with the amount of outlets it has in one single platform. You get me? Granted, though, it's Facebook's sister, and I mean Facebook does the most as well. But Instagram, there's always that level of convenience that comes with Instagram versus a Facebook. But you do have a high number of individuals who are still using Facebook. So do not count Facebook out, right? So funny enough, if you want to do Instagram and Facebook, you're laying a good foundation there. You get what I'm saying? But saying that to say, I always say to my clients, if you're choosing three primary communication channels, don't let them all be social media platforms. Meaning, so email marketing is a method of communication, is a method of you communicating information to your email list, and persons who are potentially going to invest in you, right? So that's not necessarily a social media platform, right? You want to always be able to have a platform that you have most or full control over, and your email, it's pretty much, yeah, that's one thing. I also always encourage my clients to have a website. Now, there are a lot of persons who will tell you that, hey, you don't need a website when you're just starting out or whatever, but I'm telling you, especially when you want to be taken seriously, especially when you want to have a hub where everything you do is in one place and everything. Yes, I am, Annette. Um, Let me actually, whew, let me pause. So you can find me at Charmian-Marie, Charmian-Marie on YouTube. Just let you all know. So right, so I am on YouTube. I am on Twitter, Instagram, quite a number of them. LinkedIn, yeah, right. But yeah, so in terms of in terms of just being able to be on multiple platforms and stuff, make sure, especially in your primary communication channels, that you are not just choosing those social media platforms. Make sure you're also including your website as like your hub, your base. Everything that you do should be, in relation to what you're selling, should be accessible on this one platform, which is your website, right? And then no, again, make sure you're using another communication platform that is, at least fully in your control. And so a good example of that is email marketing, because that's you literally just sending emails to persons, right? And them choosing to interact with your content in a more intimate way, because they don't have to get on any other platform to be able to access whatever. It's literally right there, then and there, so you put in your links, all of these things, right? So saying that to say, make sure you're clear on your primary communication channels, and do not just choose social media channels only as those primary ones, but include one that you have complete control over. And a perfect example as well, remember last year when Instagram went down, hey, there were so many persons, so many brands that were thrown off in that time because, hey, like they're tied to that and stuff. You don't want to be held to ransom by a single platform. And of course, they didn't do it deliberately. But you get what I'm saying? Like, take your control in the digital space, eh? So with that said, now, let's talk about adaptability, right? When you're choosing, when you're choosing your communication channels, let's just make sure that you are willing to adapt. Now, I'm going to be fully transparent here, right? So up to very recently, I was low-key really angry with Instagram. Let me tell you, I have a very, very deep love-filled relationship with Instagram and stuff. But you see, when they announced that it was primarily gonna be video and stuff, like that threw my marketing strategy, like just left, right? And I know it did that for so many other persons, especially personal brand, persons, And so for the longest while, I was still posting my carousels, I was still posting my stagnant images and all these things. And more, you're just seeing your reach go down and down. And I mean, I was still trying to hold on to the hashtag strategy that, has been popular on Instagram, like for however long. You get me? But yeah, like I kept, every time I put out a reel, however, instantly I'm getting more than 100 views, like at least in like 5 to 10 minutes. And I'm not even exaggerating. I know that so many persons have seen like just exponential views, thousands of views like in less than a day. You get what I'm saying? So I just saw that and I'm like, all right, cool. I gotta give in. I gotta adapt. You get what I'm saying? And so I'm saying that to say, like, as you consider moving forward, as you consider choosing communication channels and all of that, it's important for you to be open enough to adapt, right? Just straight up, right? Because if you're not open enough to adapting, then that platform is literally going to progress without you, and your marketing strategies will literally almost seem archaic, right? Almost seem ancient, right? And you don't want that. If you're on something modern and ever evolving like digital, then keep up with the times as best as possible, you know? So as much as so many of us have been stubborn in this time, as much as so many of us have been resistant to the change, you're finding that, hey, you know what, like it's important for us to be able to do that, right? It's important for us to be able to move forward. And yeah, just keeping it real, right? So with that said, now, let me talk to you about customizability, right? Or just the ease of customization. Now, there are lots of platforms like, and I'll again be transparent because I mean this is digital dominated loft. Like I believe in the transparency so that you are hearing from somebody who literally helps other persons in digital and stuff. You're hearing from my own experience and all of that, right? Now, customization and stuff. I always say, hey, especially my primary communication channels and stuff, I want to choose a platform that I can show me as much as possible because it makes it a lot easier, therefore, for persons to be able to get to know me and journey with me and want to potentially hear from me and learn from me and all of these things, right? Now, a reality is that because of this very same thing, I took longer to really take even LinkedIn seriously because for the longest time before LinkedIn started adding the shorts and well, yeah, the short videos and the stories and all of these things, you guys would possibly remember that LinkedIn was pretty stagnant and stoic, and I mean, and at the end of the day, like it's B2B, like so you understand that, hey, all right, cool, it is what it is. Like you just gotta be very professional, quote unquote, on this platform and stuff. So there was not much room for just sharing more creativity and stuff like that, right? And clearly they saw that that was what was up, and then they decided to flip things up. You get what I'm saying? So that is beautiful, right? But yeah, I'll tell you straight up that I took very long to really take LinkedIn seriously. I just took it as my online resume and stuff. And I'm like, all right, cool, I'm on LinkedIn. Great. So I'm saying that to say, like, in terms of the idea of customization, you want to choose platforms that allow you to express yourself as much as possible so that even the digital barrier, because remember, we are still in the digital space, especially in this time and everything that's been going on in this panini, right? More and more we are becoming digital. More and more we are not really interacting with persons face to face and stuff. So you want to do your very best to pull down the barriers and allow persons to feel like they're interacting with you on a personal level, right? Which is why, funny enough, the idea of personal branding really thrives in the online space, right? So with that said, the idea of customization really goes hand in hand with personal branding, and with personal branding that allows more persons to make an emotional decision as to whether or not they want to invest with you, right? And work with you and be served by you, right? So just saying, like, when you are making those decisions about, where you're going to be selling, it's important for you to think on that. So in fact, it's important to for you to think on the three things that I mentioned under this one: your primary communication channels. And remember, I said don't make them all be social media platforms. Make sure you at least have one that you have full control over, right? Second thing, adaptability. Make sure that whichever platforms you are choosing, especially your primary communication channels, you are really allowing yourself to go ahead and adapt, right? And not fall behind, because if you fall behind, you're working against yourself in terms of a thriving digital presence, right? And then the last thing under this one is, customization, or the ease of customization rather. How much do these platforms allow you to, get custom and express yourself and all of that? You get me? So with that said, that concludes the idea of, understanding or figuring out where you are selling, right? So the fourth and final point, so remember the first one we went to was what you're selling, right? Second one, who are you selling to? The third one that we just did, where are you selling, right? And then the fourth thing, why are you selling, right? And maybe it's weird to you that, I mentioned why last, but I tend to encourage persons to get the I don't want to just bunch it as logics, right? But get the facts on paper, right? Get the brass tacks on paper. All right, cool. What am I selling? Let's write that down. Great, beautiful, right? So we've literally gone through a lot of those logical things down about that are easily backed up by research and all of that. But you see, if you don't know your why, if you haven't figured out your why, then let's just because let me tell you, this online business landscape is very intimidating. This online business landscape is very tricky in terms of just really being able to figure out how to maneuver at different points. And I'm just being very straight up with you, right? And so if it is that you are not able to figure it out, if it is that you're not able to, say, all right, cool, this is why I'm doing this. This is why I want to keep on pushing forward and stuff like that. If you're not able to figure that out, then you're already in a problem, right? Because when persons are ignoring you online, when persons are talking you up in the DMs, and you think they're gonna sign, and then like they don't sign, then what do? Do you quit? Do you? Right? A reality is that your why is what keeps you grounded. And so even when I'm helping my clients and stuff, this is one of the big things that I take them through, and I tell them to write it down, because like you need to be able to remind yourself of that. And on the flip side, you also need to be able to be comfortable sharing that, because it's a part of your brand story. It's a part of why you are pushing yourself forward, so that other persons might be able to relate to you. So funny enough, it plays right into your personal branding efforts again, right? So you need to understand why you're doing this. You need to understand why you are showing up day after day. You need to understand why you have coined your packages the way you have. You need to understand why you are choosing to show up on Instagram versus a Facebook. You get what I'm saying? Like your why literally helps to be that extra fuel behind everything that you would have written down. So if you don't have enough things written down, then that's a problem. That's a problem, right? So with that said, I need you to figure out why you are selling. Why are you showing up? Why did you start this online business? Why? Ask yourself. Ask yourself. So with that said, guys, so we went through 4 things tonight, right? Remember the broader topic was the things that you need to figure out for your online business. And I said need to figure out for your online business. So the 4 things. First thing, what you are selling. Second thing, who you're selling to. Third thing, where are you selling? And then the fourth thing, why are you selling? So with that said, I'm going to open things up at least for, like maybe a minute or two. If anybody has any questions that they'd like to ask, of course, I'd love to hear, right? Or I'd love to read and therefore answer. But yeah, so with that said though, guys, for the persons who joined me live, I'm grateful for the fact that you joined me live, of course. I'm grateful for the fact that, yeah, you are definitely here. And yeah, and for the persons who are watching the replay, I'm hoping that you learned something as well. Of course, I'm going to be here again next week, Sunday, taking you through all of this, and just making sure that, yeah, you know that this is a space for us to share openly about, just moving forward in digital so that we can dominate digital, right? So with that said, I'm not seeing any questions right now. So I'm going to go ahead and hop off. But again, guys, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for joining me. And I'll see you next week. You will see me post, the topic for next week's live this week, right? So, all right, guys. Take care. Let me just